The gymnasium was quiet that January morning. The kind of stillness that feels heavy, almost suffocating in a place usually alive with the squeak of sneakers and the shouts of teenagers. At Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia, the air held a chill, the kind that clings to your skin even indoors. It was January 11th, 2013, and in the corner of that gym, hidden inside a rolled-up wrestling mat, a 17-year-old boy named Kendrick Johnson lay dead. His body was upside down, his head pressed against the floor, his arms trapped at his sides. A single shoe, a white sneaker, sat nearby, untouched by blood or struggle. How did he get there? Was it a tragic accident, as the authorities would claim, or something far darker? A secret buried in the folds of that mat? A truth still clawing its way to the surface? Kendrick Johnson, known to his friends and family as KJ, was a kid full of life. Born on October 10th, he was the middle child of 5, raised in a tight-knit family in Valdosta, a small city in South Georgia where community ties run deep, but so do divisions. KJ was a junior at Lowndes High, a sprawling school with over 3,000 students, a place where football reigned supreme, and the gym was a hub of activity. He was an athlete himself, a wrestler, a football player, a kid who loved to move. His smile was infectious, his energy boundless. His mother, Jacqueline, described him as her ray of sunshine, always quick to laugh, always ready to help his siblings or crack a joke. His father, Kenneth, saw a quiet strength in him, a boy who didn't seek trouble but wasn't afraid to stand his ground. KJ was the kind of kid who made you feel like the world was a little brighter. Valdosta, though, wasn't always a bright place. A city of about 55 exist. It's a mix of southern charm and simmering tensions, where history lingers like humidity in the air. Racial divides, though less overt than in decades past, still shaped the social fabric. Lowndes High was integrated, but whispers of cliques, rivalries, and unspoken hierarchies were part of the school's undercurrent. For the Johnson family, Valdosta was home, but it was also a place where they felt the weight of being black in a community where power often tilted toward the white establishment. KJ, though, seemed to navigate it all with ease. He was popular, well-liked, the kind of kid who could bridge gaps with his charm. On January 10th, 2013, KJ's day started like any other. He woke up in the modest family home on Charleston Place, ate breakfast with his siblings, and headed to school. It was a Thursday, the second day back after winter break, and the rhythm of the new semester was settling in. KJ attended his classes, laughed with friends, and, according to those who saw him, was in good spirits. By the afternoon, he was in the gym for his physical education class. The old gym, a cavernous space with bleachers and wrestling mats stacked against the walls, was a familiar spot. Students often stored their shoes behind or inside the rolled-up mats to keep them safe during class. KJ, like many others, had done it before. That day, he was wearing a pair of white Nike sneakers, one of which would soon become a haunting detail in the story. Around 1:30 p.m., KJ was seen on surveillance footage entering the gym. The cameras, grainy and inconsistent, captured him walking in with a group of students. He was wearing a black t-shirt and jeans, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He headed toward the corner where the mats were stored, a cluster of blue and red cylinders standing upright, some as tall as 6 feet. What happened next is where the story fractures, where the official narrative and the family's suspicions collide. The next morning, January 11th, a group of students entered the gym for class. One of them, a girl, noticed something odd about one of the mats. She climbed up to peer inside and screamed. There, wedged inside the tight roll, was Kendrick Johnson's body. His face was swollen, his eyes half open, his body inverted. The students alerted the teacher, who called 911. Paramedics and police arrived quickly, but it was too late. Kendrick was gone. The scene was chaotic, students crying, teachers in shock, and a crowd gathering as word spread. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office took charge, cordoning off the area. Deputies noted a small pool of blood near Kendrick's head and a few drops on a nearby wall, but the sneaker just inches away was pristine, untouched by any trace of struggle. The official investigation moved swiftly. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, led by Sheriff Chris Prine, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, took over. The GBI's autopsy, conducted the next day by Dr. Mary Ann Gaffney Kraft, concluded that Kendrick died of positional asphyxia. The theory was simple, almost too simple. Kendrick had climbed into the mat to retrieve his shoe, slipped headfirst, and became trapped. Unable to move in the tight space, he suffocated, his body unable to get enough oxygen. The mat's diameter was measured at 14 inches, narrower than Kendrick's 19-inch shoulders, but investigators argued he could have squeezed in. The lack of significant injuries, no broken bones, no clear signs of a fight, supported their conclusion. By January 25, 2013, the case was closed. Accidental death. Case solved. But for Kendrick's family, the story was just beginning. Jacqueline and Kenneth Johnson were devastated, their grief compounded by disbelief. How could their athletic, 5'10" son, who weighed 159 pounds, have gotten stuck in a mat so small? Why was there blood near his body but none on the shoe he was supposedly reaching for? And why did the surveillance footage, which they demanded to see, have missing segments and blurry frames? The Johnsons refused to accept the official narrative. They hired attorney Benjamin Crump, a civil rights lawyer known for representing families in high-profile cases, and began pushing for answers. Their first major move was a private autopsy, funded through community donations and conducted by Dr. William Anderson in February 2013. The results were staggering. Anderson found evidence of blunt force trauma to the right side of Kendrick's neck, a bruise about the size of a dime that suggested a blow, possibly with a small hard object. He concluded that Kendrick's death was not accidental, but the result of foul play. The finding lit a fire under the family's suspicions. They pointed to inconsistencies. Paramedics had noted bruising on Kendrick's face, yet the GBI autopsy mentioned none. The surveillance footage, which should have shown the gym's activity, had a 90-minute gap in sections so blurry they were useless. And then there was the issue of Kendrick's organs. When his body was exhumed for the second autopsy, his organs, heart, lungs, liver, were missing, replaced with crumpled newspaper. The funeral home claimed this was standard practice for autopsied bodies, but to the Johnsons, it felt like a deliberate act to hide evidence. The case exploded into the public consciousness. Protests erupted in Valdosta, with community members and activists, including the local NAACP, rallying behind the Johnsons. The hashtag #JusticeForKJ began trending on social media, and posts on platforms like Twitter, now X, amplified the family's demands. They believed Kendrick had been murdered, possibly over a schoolyard dispute, and that the authorities were covering it up. Rumors swirled about a fight Kendrick had allegedly had with another student, a white classmate whose father was reportedly connected to law enforcement. The family and their supporters pointed to racial bias in Valdosta, a town with a history of segregation and unequal treatment. Was Kendrick's death being swept under the rug because he was black? The investigation took a darker turn in 2013 when the Department of Justice launched a federal probe. Prompted by public outcry and Crump's advocacy, the DOJ examined whether Kendrick's death involved a civil rights violation, a high bar requiring proof of racial animus. Meanwhile, the Johnsons filed a $100 million wrongful death lawsuit against 38 defendants, including the sheriff's office, the school, and several individuals they believed were involved. The lawsuit alleged a conspiracy to conceal the truth, pointing to the missing organs, the questionable surveillance footage, and the rapid closure of the case. But the official narrative didn't budge. Sheriff Prine stood by the accidental death ruling, calling the family's claims unfounded. The GBI defended its autopsy, dismissing the private pathologist's findings as speculative. The DOJ's investigation, after 3 years and thousands of documents, closed in 2016 without charges. They found no evidence of a prosecutable crime, stating that the accidental death conclusion was the most plausible. The Johnsons' lawsuit hit a wall in 2017 when a judge dismissed it and ordered the family to pay $292,000 in legal fees to the defendants, a crushing blow to their fight. Still, they didn't give up. In 2018, a third autopsy by renowned pathologist Dr. Michael Baden, known for high-profile cases like O.J. Simpson and Jeffrey Epstein, reaffirmed the blunt force trauma finding. Baden also criticized the newspaper stuffing as highly irregular, fueling the family's belief in a cover-up. By now, the case had become a symbol of distrust in institutions, not just in Valdosta, but nationwide. Online communities, particularly on X, kept the story alive, sharing theories about potential suspects, analyzing grainy stills from the surveillance footage, and demanding accountability. Some posts speculated about a hit ordered by powerful figures in the town, while others debated the physics of Kendrick fitting into the mat. A 2019 documentary, Finding Kendrick Johnson, brought renewed attention, featuring interviews with the family and experts who questioned the official story. In 2021, a glimmer of hope emerged. Sheriff Ashley Polk, who had replaced Prine, reopened the case after receiving 17 boxes of federal investigation materials, including grand jury testimony. The decision came after years of pressure from the Johnsons and their supporters, including an audio recording that surfaced in 2020, allegedly containing a confession to Kendrick's murder. The recording, though, was later debunked as a hoax, a cruel twist that deepened the family's pain. Polk's team spent 15 months reviewing the evidence, re-interviewing witnesses, and analyzing the footage. In January 2022, he announced his findings. No evidence of homicide, no cover-up. Kendrick's death, he said, was a tragic accident. To underscore his confidence, Polk offered a $500,000 personal reward for information leading to a conviction, a gesture that felt hollow to the Johnsons. The family's fight took a new turn in 2023 when they filed a $1 billion lawsuit against the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. The GBI and others are alleging a conspiracy to obstruct justice and racial bias in the investigation. They pointed to the pristine shoe, the missing organs, the surveillance gaps, and the physical improbability of Kendrick's body fitting into the mat. The lawsuit gained traction when, in February 2025, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals overturned a district court's dismissal, allowing the case to move forward. For the Johnsons, it was a rare victory, a chance to keep Kendrick's name in the light. Today, the case remains a wound that won't heal. For Jacqueline and Kenneth, every day is a battle to honor their son's memory. They run the Kendrick Johnson Foundation, organizing rallies, raising funds for legal battles, and keeping the story alive. On X, supporters continue to share posts, some with grainy images of the gym, others with heartfelt pleas for justice. KJ deserved better, one post reads. Why won't they listen? Another asks. The official narrative, accidental death, stands firm in the eyes of the authorities, backed by multiple investigations. But the Johnsons see a different truth. A son taken too soon, a system that failed him, and a town that turned its back. Kendrick's story is more than a mystery. It's a mirror held up to a community, a state, and a nation. It's about a family's love, their refusal to let go, and the questions that linger like shadows in that gymnasium. Did Kendrick Johnson die reaching for a shoe, trapped in a freak accident? Or was he silenced, his life stolen in a moment of violence no one wants to face? The mat that held him is gone now, removed as evidence, but the truth, whatever it is, remains trapped somewhere inside it.